Hi everybody, Brent Jones, New Home Source Realty. How are you? Okay, this is going to be part 3 of 3, final installment in the series of most asked real estate questions. And this part 3 is going to pertain to how best would you screen a realtor. So you're going to be interviewing realtors to sell your house. And how can you separate the good from the bad from the whatever? So most asked questions that you might want to ask when you're screening realtors. But before we get into this, click notifications, follow me, like this video, and leave a comment. So if you were going to put your house on the market and if you were going to interview multiple realtors, what questions would you ask that realtor to see if they might be the best fit for you? Let's do this. Is that better? Okay, good. By the way, you see her right there? She's actually at my feet staring up at me. I would move the camera over and show her to you, but I'd never get it back right again. But anyway, she's actually the brains of the operation. She's the mascot. Anyway, back to the task at hand here, how to properly screen a realtor. So here's some of the most commonly asked questions that you could ask your potential realtor. Would be number 1, are you familiar with this neighborhood? So the subdivision that your house is in, ask the realtor if they're familiar with that particular area. Have they ever sold any houses in your neighborhood or the surrounding area? So those are good questions to ask. You know, if you've been in real estate, I've been in real estate for 30 years. I'm not going to say I've sold a house anywhere and everywhere in every single subdivision because there's many tens of thousands of subdivisions, but you can be familiar with a basic area, a basic part of town, that kind of thing. Nothing wrong with asking that question and seeing if the agent has a first-hand knowledge of that area, either from a personal point of view, like they grew up there, they have family that's lived there, whatever, or from a business point of view, which would be they've actually sold houses there before. Next question. Have you sold houses in this price range before? You know, I could see that question if we were getting into the luxury market, if you're getting into like maybe the $1 million type properties. I could see that question coming up because real estate is the same for your basic $250,000 sales, but when you get up into the luxury, there's more components that are involved. So have you ever sold a $1 million property before? Have you ever sold a house in this price range before? I could also see that coming up with if you have, for instance, a farm and ranch property as opposed to just a single family house in a typical subdivision. Have you ever sold farm and ranch before? Because there's different components when you get into farm and ranch. There's outbuildings, and there's potentially mineral rights, and there's easements, and there's leases, and there's ag exemptions, etc., etc. So it can be a different kind of animal. So have you ever sold houses in this price range or this type of property before? I think would be kind of an all-encompassing kind of a question to ask there. Is that better? I keep slumping down in my chair for some reason. Next question. Are you a part-time or full-time agent? Nothing wrong with asking that question. There's nothing wrong with part-time agents as long as they're thoroughly trained and they've got experience and they know what they're doing. I actually started off part-time years ago and actually was quite successful. As a matter of fact, I was part-time and I was making more money selling real estate part-time than I was making with my full-time job. So it was kind of a way for me to ease over. But there's no question, you know, if they're part-time, the disadvantage that I could see to that would be if you want to go see a house Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, they can't go show you because they're at their real job. Or if you need to contact them, they can't always reply back to you because they're at their real job. So there would be some disadvantages. I'm not saying that, you know, I mean, there's some part-time agents that would be more competent than some full-time agents. But I could see some time limitations if they were part-time and they're at a job, a job, 40 hours a week, and they just can't reply back to you, or they can't accommodate you wanting to go show a house in the middle of the afternoon because they're at work. So speaking of the dog, did I tell you she was down at my feet? Well, she just got up. So anyway, how about that? All right, we're back up. So, okay, so that would be the advantages and disadvantages of a full-time versus part-time Can I see your real estate license? Yeah, absolutely. You get your license. I think we have to renew it every 3 years. You have to have continuing education. But yeah, I can't imagine somebody posing as a real estate agent and they're really not a real estate agent. But absolutely, you should. If someone, I've never had anybody ask me that, but if they ask to see your current state of Texas real estate license, yeah, absolutely, make that available to them. Do you work with do I work with you or directly with your team? I think what they're asking there is, if I have a question, problem, need to talk to somebody, are you going to pass me off to some subordinate, or do I actually get to talk to you? In my particular situation, if I list your house, you're going to speak directly with me. I'm not going to pass you on down the line. Some of these big box real estate companies, you absolutely are going to get passed on down to a subordinate. And if you ever have a question or whatever, your call's going to get like on a round robin kind of a thing. So somebody may actually go show you a house, but you never even hear from that person again. And then when you're ready to go see another house, or you have a question or whatever, they're going to round robin you down to the next agent in line. So it's very impersonal. When you deal with me, you're going to be dealing with me. No subordinate involved. Contact, feedback. So what the question is here is, if we list your house, one of the most aggravating things that sellers say is, I've got my house on the market, but I'm not getting feedback. I don't know where we are. We had a showing. What did it go good? Did it go bad? So I can tell you personally, I always request feedback whenever we have a showing, because sellers are just curious. What they like about my house? What did they not like about my house? Is there a deficiency I'm not aware of? Is there something I need to change? Is there something about my house that's turning people off? So, feedback, good, bad, or otherwise. And it's important. Now, I will tell you that just because we request feedback doesn't mean we always get feedback. As a common courtesy, if a realtor is going to show your house, they ought to take just a minute, especially today when you can just send a quick text. Yeah, they liked it, they didn't like it, whatever. It would take 3 minutes to provide some feedback. But again, you don't always get feedback, but I certainly request feedback with all of my showings each and every time. A couple of questions I'm going to combine together here, which is, with your listing, what's the average days on the market, and what's your list to price ratio? So basically, when I list a house, how many days is that house typically on the market, and are your listings selling at or above asking price? In a more normal market, those probably would be more pertinent questions. But in today's market, with it being such a seller's market and there's such a high demand and a limited supply, really the area would dictate a lot of that. So, I mean, when I'm going to go list somebody's house, I'll do a market study and see what's been going on in their exact subdivision over the last 90 days. What is the DOM in their subdivision, DOM being days on market, and what have houses sold for in their subdivision in the last 90 days? Are they selling at asking price? Are they selling above asking price? If they're selling above asking price, what percent? 101%, 103, 106? What percent above asking price? So that would give us a pretty good indication of what's going to happen with their house, unless there's something that sets their house negatively apart from everything else that's been selling in that neighborhood. But as long as their house would be comparable to everything else that's been selling in that subdivision, and there's no deficiency that would prevent that, you can give a pretty good indication of how long I'm guesstimating your house would be on the market and what I think it would sell for. Is it going to sell for list price? And would it sell above asking price? What else? What is the best way to contact you? That really would be up to the sellers. Usually in today's world, it's text. As a matter of fact, I very rarely talk on the phone to my kids. We text, but that's just the world that we're in. At most everything is text, so text would be the most common, but it would be up to different people have a preferred method that they would like to use to be contacted, whether it be email or text or carrier pigeon or fax. Does anybody even have a fax machine anymore? Whatever, but typically text. Do you have a recommendation network? What I think they mean by that question is a recommendation network. Do you have any referrals? Do you have any past clients that rave about you? There's a service called Real Satisfied. It's a survey, and after every happy closing transaction, I send this real survey out to my clients, and they can rate my performance. Even put in some personal comments if they would like. And with that auto-populates to Google and some other platforms as well. But with that, I have a 98% approval rating on Google. So, and that comes from a variety of different things, but primarily Real Satisfied. So that's a lot of questions you could ask your realtor. Here's my personal recommendation for you. Does your realtor really care? Do they basically care about you? Is your realtor just in this to sell your house and make a commission, or do they actually care about you and your family and y'all's needs, your goals, your dreams, what you're trying to accomplish? I can just tell you from a personal point of view, years and years ago, I stopped even figuring out what my commission is going to be on a transaction. Realtors that only focus on the commission, it's kind of like a cat chasing their tail. You'll never catch it. But if you stop focusing on the commission and start focusing on customers and customer service and their needs, the money will come to you. So I don't even figure out what my commission is going to be on a transaction until I'm forced to do what's called a CDA, a cash disbursements authorization, and I have to submit that to the title company because we're going to close next week. That's the first and only time I ever even figure out what my commission is going to be, because I'm not in it for the commission. I'm in it for customer service and trying to help people reach their goals and their dreams. So when you're interviewing an agent, see if you can pick up on that. Are they just in this to make a fast buck, or do you think they actually care? That would be my overall recommendation to you. So anyway, part 3 of the 3-part series. The part 1 was most asked questions by sellers. Part 2 was most asked questions by buyers. And now this part 3 was questions to ask if you're going to be interviewing different realtors. What would be some good questions to ask those realtors? Anything I can do to be of help? Brent Jones, 214-649-4528. You can text me. We already talked about that. Brent Jones, 214-649-4528. If I can be of any help, don't hesitate to give me a holler. Bye-bye.